Hi, it's me, Lil. Today I'm coming at you with my thoughts on Zootopia 2 and Hamnet in Lil's Lights Camera Action. We're going to do some telly time, talking about Severance. Nobody wants this. I'll also talk about Married at First Sight, one of my favorite reality shows. Let's start with Zootopia 2. We all loved the original 2016 movie. It was such a joy and delight. We laughed, we loved. It was just a good time all around. It won several awards for Best Animated Feature of the Year, and it was definitely one of the best animated movies that I'd seen in a long time. Now, the sequel brings us back to the story of Judy Hopps, who's a rabbit and a rookie cop on the police department, and her partner, Nick Wilde, who's a fox and was once a small-time con artist and is now Judy's partner on the force. So this new movie was still very delightful, good times, good message. The message, accepting people's differences and not judging people by their exterior or what you think they might be, or prejudging and having preconceived notions and prejudices is not right. Still resonates. Was slightly less funny than the first one, mainly because there was not enough sloths. The sloths are what made the movie last time. They were the stars. Every time they came on screen, you were laughing. And this time there was only like one sloth scene. So that was kind of disappointing. There was two scenes with Shakira as the singing gazelle. That felt excessive. She only had one scene at the end of the last movie, and I felt that that was enough. It's just weird to have more gazelle than sloth. Everybody knows sloths are much funnier than gazelles. Gazelles are like majestic and graceful and sophisticated. Sloths are basically monkeys that got too high. The film also danced around this whole will they or won't they thing with Judy and Nick. It was so obvious that one guy in the theater even screamed out, "Just kiss her already!" The ending definitely left us open for another movie, so we'll see how it plays out with them in Zootopia 3. I'm giving this a little letter grade of an A minus. They lose points because not enough sloths. Now let's talk about Hamnet. It's directed by Chloe Zhao, who is one of three women who's won the Oscar for Best Director. That's right, you heard me, three, even though Barbara Streisand should be on the list as the fourth. But that's neither here nor there. Chloe is a really talented director. Her 2020 film Nomadland, I think, will be looked back on as one of the most real and bittersweet depictions of life during the pandemic. Frances McDormand is brilliant in it, as she is in everything. So she was off to a great start with that movie. It wasn't her debut, but it was her first major motion picture. Then things took a turn. Maybe the loan shark started calling or something, because then she went and made a Marvel movie, The Eternals, which was not really good, even for Marvel. But back to Hamnet. The movie is based on a book, which is basically a fictional recounting of the marriage between Anne Hathaway and William Shakespeare. She's called Agnes in the movie. And it talks about the impact of their son's death, which pretty much inspired Shakespeare to write his magnum opus that we all know, Hamlet. Now, this movie is decidedly better than The Eternals. It's shot really well. The performances are solid. They add an air of mysticism to the story, which is interesting. But all that said, I just couldn't get into it. Jesse Buckley and Paul Mescal do a really good job in their roles as Agnes and William, respectively. But there was nothing revelatory about their performances, and I feel like I've seen better performances from both of them in other films. The movie's getting a lot of acclaim. I just can't get on the train. The pacing was really slow, which I expected going into the theater. So I was able to be patient, but it was unnecessarily slow. They really stretch things out. And then, like, the whole last part of the movie is basically them performing Hamlet on the stage. If I wanted to see Hamlet, I would have bought a ticket for Hamlet. I came to see Hamnet. Anyway, it is a well made film, as I said, but it didn't move me. Maybe because I was having kind of a bad day and my heart was made of ice. But to me, it kind of felt like looking at the Mona Lisa. It's a beautiful piece of art, but you don't really feel anything looking at it. You know you should appreciate it, but it doesn't resonate with you. I'm sure people who've lost a child will probably feel differently. Of course, I've lost a loved one and experienced grief, but I don't even feel like this movie was a great depiction of that. Something like Ordinary People does a really great job describing how grief affects a family. I think the only people who'd really be interested in seeing this movie are Shakespeare stans. I can't even say it's one for the Shakespeare scholars because it's all fictional, but they might be into it too. I don't know. I found it quite boring and I gave it a Lil's letter grade of a B minus. Moving on to Telly Time, let's talk about two shows who debuted a couple years ago. I think around Severance was definitely around pandemic time. I can't remember when Nobody Wants This started. I thoroughly enjoyed both first seasons of these shows, so I had to come back for more. So let's start with Severance, which is on Apple TV. No longer Apple TV Plus, now just Apple TV. Okay. It's kind of this science fiction, psychological thriller show that's about this group of employees that works at a biotech company that's called Lumen Industries. And they've all undergone this process that they call severance, which is a procedure that splits a person's memories between work and their personal lives. It creates two separate identities for the employee. There's an innie who has no knowledge of the outside world, and an outie who lives their outside world without any knowledge of their job. First of all, I love the premise because that is a great idea. How many times have you been at home and all you can think about is work? I used to stay up at night for hours just thinking about work. I was miserable. So I'm like, give me the juice, inject me, put a chip in, whatever you have to do. This sounds great. But as you can probably guess, Severance is not all it's cracked up to be for the Lumen employees. The first season is about the innies and the outies first discovering that everything's not quite right with their lives. And they're trying to figure out what's happening, why their realities are so messed up. It was really well done, really intriguing, and the performances are really strong. Most of the episodes directed by our old homie Ben Stiller. So that's kind of have a star, mostly known for his comedic roles, now directing this dark, dramatic series. The season finale of the first season definitely left us wanting more, so I had to come back for season two. Too bad I also had to wait 3 years for it. Anyway, so it came back, and this season was more about uncovering the mystery behind Lubin and how it came to be, and the innies and the outies kind of trying to work together to find a way they can both coexist and both be happy. This time, the season finale effed me up. It really threw me for a loop. They did some things that I was not expecting. They made me a little unhappy, but I was still like, this is great television. I've talked to some people who think it doesn't really need a third season. In some ways, I agree, but I'm definitely going to come back for season 3 to see what direction they take it in. If I like it, I'll stick around. If I don't, I won't. I'm giving this season a Lil's letter grade of an A minus. Let's segue to something lighter, shall we? Another recent show that I really enjoyed is the romantic comedy on Netflix called Nobody Wants, which is about this rabbi who starts a relationship with this waspy shiksa woman. Kind of an opposites attract thing. The relationship is very unlikely. She's an outspoken agnostic, and he's kind of this unconventional rabbi. Couple are played by Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, who are really strong in their roles. Even though Kristen Bell, my fellow Tishi from the class of 2002, feels like she's kind of doing a version of the character she played on The Good Place, Eleanor, but I'm still enjoying it. She's just spicy and cynical enough to keep us interested. So what makes it so great is that they have really good chemistry with each other, and it feels real. The actors who play the supporting characters of the woman Joanne's sister and the Rabbi Noah's brother and his wife also have their own kind of storylines going that are equally as funny and interesting. If I dare say it, this season was even funnier than the last season. But I am kind of seeing this pattern of like this repetitive storyline, which I really don't love. But the rest of it is so funny, I'm willing to put it aside. A special shout out to Tova Felcha, who plays Noah's overbearing Jewish mother. She does it so well. It's so detailed. You really believe she is this person. She's one of those characters that you love to hate, and she is a hoot. The show is a joy to watch. The acting is great. It's a great ensemble. The writing is really strong. I'm laughing pretty much every 5 minutes, which I can't say that about many other shows. I'll definitely be tuning in for season 3. I'm giving this season a Lil's letter grade of an A minus. Now we're gonna do a little reality bites, talking about one of my favorite reality shows I've been watching since the beginning. They're on season 19, and I still can't get enough. The concept of the show is couples are matched by these experts, a pastor who's a marriage counselor, a sociologist, and a sex therapist. They match the people based on who they think will be the most compatible, and the couples meet for the first time at the altar and get married. The show follows them through their honeymoon, moving in together, trying to integrate their lives, and they have 8 weeks to decide whether or not they'll get a divorce or stay married. I just find it to be a really fascinating social experiment. It's so interesting to see which couples gel and which ones don't. Sometimes have the case of somebody is not physically attracted to the other person, but they still try to push through for the sake of the experiment. And then there's also some people who just clash from the beginning. You're often surprised by who decides to stay together and who decides to get a divorce at the end of the show. This season actually ended on a pretty hopeful note, but then the reunion took us to a dark place. The show was first on the FYI network. Does anybody remember that? Then it moved to Lifetime for several seasons, and now it's on Peacock. And I've just been following it from network to network. When the show was on Lifetime, it was like an hour and a half, and they went through like every boring minute of the couple's existence. Like, we don't need to know who likes scrambled eggs for breakfast and who likes cereal. But now that it's on Peacock, it's back to a tight hour. There's not as many episodes, so you get to see the resolution faster. I think they've really improved the show, and I give it a Lil's letter grade of a B plus. That's all for now. Come back next time for my rundown on the recently announced Critics' Choice and Golden Globe Award nominations.